Okay, give it a minute here.
Paul Roma is having problems with his internet at home. He just sent me that message, so he might.
Sure.
We got too many game casts going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
We are
we're ready.
live.
Okay, very good. Good evening. Today is Monday, March 22nd, 2001. Welcome to this evening's meeting of the Oregon City Council. Let's begin tonight's meeting by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
The United
and to
States
the
of America,
republic for which it stands,
for which it
one
stands,
nation,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible, with
and justice.
and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council for attendance this evening?
Mr. Davish,
Here.
Mr. Horniak,
Here.
Mrs. Pollock,
Here.
Mr. Reeves,
Here.
Mr. Seaman, Mr. Wallensack,
Here.
Mr. Zale,
Here.
Thank you, council. 6 members of the council are present this evening, and we did just hear from Mr. Seaman, who's having problems. It looks like he's logging in right now. So we will have our 7th member. Also joining us, our clerk of council, Ms. Tina Evans, Mayor Michael Safarian, City Administrator, Mr. Michael Beasley, Law Director, Melissa Purpura, Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman, Finance Director, Ms. Darlene Huntermark. We have our Police Chief, Brandon Began, Fire Chief, Denny Hartman, Mark Mullins, Jim Wolf, RT Tech, Alex Schultz, and our Zoning Commissioner, Mr. Jim Gilmore, joining us this evening. Council, the first order of business would be the approval of the meeting minutes from the March 8th, 2021 regular meeting of council. Can I get a motion to accept those?
Mr. President.
Mr. Seaman.
Yes, so moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, the meeting minutes from the March 8th, 2021 regular meeting of council are approved as submitted. Council, we have a number of public hearings before us this evening, so we'll get started on those. We'll open our first public hearing at 7:07. This public hearing is for a renewal application for an agricultural district for Beth Ackerman. Beth Ackerman owns property of 13.78 acres located at 6950 Brown Road. And I don't see anybody here to speak in favor of or against this renewal application. So we'll close the public hearing at 7:08 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. And I'll sign item number 41 with ordinance number 41 and ask her to read it into the record.
approving inclusion of certain land situated in the city of Oregon, Ohio, owned by Beth Ackerman into an agricultural district for a 5-year period and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
President,
Mr. Davish.
to move for passage of ordinance number 41 of 2021 as emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pollock. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 41 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock,
Yes.
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 41 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Our second public hearing this evening will open the public hearing at 7:09. This public hearing is for a number of properties owned by William J. Myers, which total 563.9983 acres distributed throughout the city. I'm not going to go ahead and read all of these. They are already read into the record last meeting. I don't see anybody here in favor to speak in favor or against. Therefore, I will close the public hearing at 7:10. I will assign item number 42 with ordinance number 42 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
approving inclusion of certain land situated in the city of Oregon, Ohio, owned by William J. Myers, trustee of the Myers Land Holding Trust, into an agricultural district for a 5-year period and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance number 42 of 2021 as emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
second,
Second by Ms. Paulo. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 42 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mrs. Pavlov,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Wallenzeck,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 42 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We'll move to our third public hearing. This public hearing will be opened at 7:11. This public hearing is for a renewal application for an agricultural district for Paul and Tricia Solstez for 3.907 acres located at 5135 Star Avenue and 5 acres located at 5115 Star Avenue. And again, there's nobody here to speak in favor or against this renewal application. Therefore, I will close the public hearing at 7:11. Assign item number 43 with ordinance number 43 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
approving inclusion of certain land situated in the city of Oregon, Ohio, owned by Paul and Tricia Solstez into an agricultural district for a 5-year period and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance number 43 of 2021 as emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
second,
Second by Ms. Paulo. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 43 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Davish,
Yes.
Mrs. Pavlov,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Wallenzeck,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note ordinance 43 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We'll move to our fourth public hearing.
And
Our fourth
Mr.
public hearing.
Mr.
Yes,
President.
Mr. Reeves. Yes,
I don't
Mr.
know,
Reeves.
There's a lot of background noise. I don't know if maybe if we could have everybody mute their phone, their thing. It's real loud. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, would everybody mute themselves, please? Thank you. Our fourth public hearing will open at 7:13. This public hearing is for the approval of the zoning change for an R2 medium density residential district to a C3 planned commercial district on the property described as 2965 Pickle Road, parcel number 44-23941. The applicant is the Oregon Planning Commission for the owner, Oregon Economic Development. Is there anybody here to speak in opposition of this zoning change? Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this zoning change? Do we want to briefly describe what this zoning change is for us?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Beasley.
just a note, I'll just do a quick overview. This is a zone change that deals with the 10 acres that for a long time, for several years now, we've talked about becoming part of our town center. That will be the portion that will be dedicated to multiple family. This actually just changes the nature of the district to C3. It's the first step. It doesn't approve any particular plan. It doesn't approve the particular shape. They will come in with those details in a future plan commission hearing and a future council meeting. But it does allow the use of multifamily in that district. Long term, in the coming weeks, we're going to be taking the same step with other land within the box that will be more general. It's important to note that the land that is closest to the Hallschild subdivision, you can see it on this map, just east of this site, the land adjacent to the Hallschild subdivision on kind of the right side of that area, the LWHO site. That's going to remain single family home. We're never going to request a zone change for that. Our expectation, and as we for some time, is that we're going to have we'll probably have 36 villas will get developed in that space. We'll have about 10 acres of 208 apartments that we expect to get developed in the space on the west side of that land. And this is just that next step in that process. So we'll be bringing in the coming weeks some specific details of the shape and look, but this allows us to move forward. We will be bringing in additional zoning steps in the coming weeks to take care of the balance of the land and what we're calling, remember, we talked about this is box 3, kind of the southern end. Box 1 is the kind of the old Kmart site, and box 2 is the land just south of the Kmart site, south of Dustin. This is just kind of that next step, and that, as we've said, many steps in the process. This is just one more, and we're excited to be moving forward with it. And I just want to note, and I think Steve commented on it first, even more than a month ago. The minute we got moving with the residential side, we're really attracting more interest on the commercial side and from restaurants and other folks who want to be part of what we're doing. So it's kind of exciting. So we'll be bringing forward some plans in the coming months, and it's there's lots going on. We're excited to take these next steps.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Councilors, any questions that you would have on item number 44 at this time?
Mr. President?
Mr. Seaman?
Yes, I'd just like to comment, all the research from economic development professionals indicate the more rooftops, the more chances of getting this mixed use development, which our citizens would like to see to improve the quality of life. So I think this is an excellent move, and this primes the pump for further development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Any other council member has any comment? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:17. I will assign item number 44 of 2021 with ordinance number 44 of 2021. And ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing a change in the district map for property located at 2965 Pickle Road, parcel number 44-23941, from an R2 medium density residential district to a C3 planned commercial zoning district.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 44 of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Davish. Ms. Evans, would you please take roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 44 of 2021?
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Davish,
yes,
Mrs. Powell,
yes,
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes,
Mr. Wallensack,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that the ordinance 44 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. That concludes the public hearings for this evening. Now, since we did not have a committee of the whole meeting last week, we will need to add items 45 through 48 to this evening's agenda. Can I get a motion, please?
Mr. President?
Mr. Seaman,
Yes, I move that we add items 45 through 48 to this evening's agenda.
thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, items 45 through 48 of 2021 are added to this evening's agenda. And we will start with item number 45 of 2021. This item is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and our police chief, Mr. Brandon Began. Mayor, Chief Began.
I will start that. This is our, we always have a rotation of changing police cars so we don't end up with a bunch of old ones. And this was something budgeted for. You see the trade-in values and the incentives that Ford gives us for the police interceptors, a very routine thing. Chief Began may have some details to add, but it's a very standard routine ordinance, how we traditionally keep our police fleet up to date.
Yeah, thank you. This is for the purchase of 3 2021 Ford Explorers to replace 3 of our older vehicles. One's a 2016, other 2 are 2017s. All 3 of them have over 110,000 miles. They're all around 110, 11,000 when we put the bids out. Ballman Ford on Navarre, we're very happy with them. They actually beat the state pricing from Statewide Ford Lincoln in Van Wert, Ohio. Good local company. We've had good luck with them in the past before Ballman took over. They beat each vehicle by about close to $1,000 a piece. And they really beat them out on the trade-in value. So Statewide Ford was going to give us $1,950 per vehicle for the 3 used vehicles. Ballman Ford was able to give us $5,500 a piece for 2 of them and $4,900 a piece. Beat them by about $9,000 total. Comes with all the amenities that we need, reverse sensing system and cameras in the mirror, ballistic door panel for the driver's side, pretty standard stuff, but the reverse sensing system and the cameras in the mirror definitely help with reducing crashes on our end with us moving around a lot. So like I said, they're very, we've had good luck with them in the past, and they were able to beat by, looks like $12,000 almost for the statewide pricing. So we're very happy with that.
Thank you, Chief Began. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 45? Hearing no questions, I will sign item number 45 with ordinance. I will sign item number 45, ordinance number 45 of 2021, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans?
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to issue a purchase order to Ballman Ford Oregon, 2811 Navarre Avenue, Oregon, Ohio, for the purchase of 3 2021 Ford Interceptor SUV vehicles to be used in the Oregon Police Division and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 45, 2021 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Polliff. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 45 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Mrs. Polliff,
Yes.
Mr. Davish,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Wallenzeck,
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 45 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Item number 46 of 2021 is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and City Administrator Mr. Michael Beasley. Mayor, Mr. Beasley?
You can go to Mr. Beasley.
All right, let me join in here, and also we're also going to have the fire chiefs join in as well. I just really wanted to first kind of thank the council, the leadership team at the fire department, fire command, the bargaining unit as well, as we've gone through a lengthy process and what we've all been working on together. I think we said this in a memo to the council last week. We've all been working on together for a number of years to kind of turn the corner together on a department that is shaped in a different way. And this is just that really one of the very last steps in doing that, this and the ordinance that follows it that changes some of our classifications. So this is the step to really summarize it in this way. It creates 2 tiers within the department so that the incumbent officers remain at their current pay rate. But it does bring in a newer group of officers that will come in at a different, more competitive with the market pay rate, a little lower price point. In addition to that, it creates a new position of people who are going to be EMT rather than advanced life support, rather than paramedics. There'll be a group of EMTs will be full-time firefighters as well. So it really kind of shapes the department in the way that we, the council, the administration, fire command have been talking about for a number of years, and achieves that objective so that it becomes the end of this process, what is a primarily scheduled call and response department with scheduled workforce with an occasional general alarm or tone out, rather than a department that where we were toning out waiting at the station for people to arrive, and then go out to respond. So we're excited about this change. This is the next step. This doesn't do anything in particular with wage differences. Those are all to be determined in the future. We were flat this year. They'll essentially be Me Too'd with whatever else comes along downstream. But it's a great step to move forward together, and we're excited about the work the Fire Command has done. They did a great job on it, and union leadership, really from both unions, the part-time and full-time, have all worked, gotten through some challenging times together. We're excited.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Mayor, do you have anything to add?
I can't add anything to that.
Okay, thank you. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 46? Hearing no questions, I will sign item number 46 with ordinance number 46 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorize the mayor and city administrator to enter into an agreement with the Oregon Professional Firefighters IAFF Local 4093 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 46, 2021 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Zale. Second by Ms. Powell. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 46 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Mrs. Polloff,
yes,
Mr. Davish,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Wallensack,
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 46 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We will move to item number 47 of 2021. Again, being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and City Administrator Mr. Michael Beasley. Mayor, Mr. Beasley.
We'll go right to Mr. Beasley on this one also.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley.
At this point, I'm going to ask Denny to join in as well. But again, pursuant to our other contract and our shape, initially we looked to have a command structure come out of be part of the bargaining unit. And in discussions with the bargaining unit, we realized it would be more efficient from our sense of the operation to do it in a different way and create the battalion chief positions. It's important to note, as we said in the memo that went out, these are going to be working advanced life support officers. So they'll be essentially the term working supervisors or working leaders, but it really helps us to be prepared to deal with any emergency as we go. It's just part of the team on the scene, ready to take command. We're excited about it. I'm going to ask Denny if he wanted to bring in some thoughts or comments on it, because I think they did a good job shaping the process this way.
Yeah, just a little explanation. One of the things that we identified early on is that we need to have some daily supervision, some on-duty daily supervision. And that's what we were working with the bargaining unit for. And then we ended up coming up with this situation, and everybody, we worked that out and got it. The reason there'll be 4 of them is they'll work a 24-hour day and they'll be off 72 hours. That's a little non-traditional for fire department. But what that does is that eliminates with the Kelly days, those kind of things. And we feel like it's just by doing the math on the particularly on the supervisor position, that's a better way to go, a better position. We again, we're very cognizant of the cost of adding the type of service that we're adding, and we think this is the best way to control the cost and basically deliver the most bang for our buck.
Thank you, Chief Hartman. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 47 of 2021? Hearing no questions, I'll sign item number 47 with ordinance number 47 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans. Ms. Evans, you need to take your mic off. Tina,
I knew I
there
was
you
going
go.
to do that. Okay. Amending the classification plan of the City of Oregon is approved by Ordinance 69 of 2019, as amended by creating the classifications of Battalion Chief and Firefighter 1 EMT, and changing the title and job description of Firefighter 2 Paramedic, establishing a pay range for Battalion Chief and Firefighter 1 EMT, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 47, 2021 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
second,
Second by Ms. Pollock. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 47 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock,
yes,
Mr. Davish,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Wallenzeck,
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 47 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We'll move to item number 48 of 2021. Item 48 is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman. Mayor, Mr. Roman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start with this. Paul may have something to add. In some of our seasonal positions, especially those who cut grass at the cemeteries, we found that if we want to retain some of the help that is actually very productive, we might have to enhance the pay scale which they are at. We found that if we get workers that have done that before, and like I said, are more productive at a little higher cost, is actually a lower cost than having unexperienced people there that are not that productive. And we found some people that have done the seasonal grass cutting there in the past that produce quite well, and we'd like to retain those people for their productivity. Mr. Roman might have some things to add to that, but I think that kind of sums it up.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Roman?
The only thing to add to that is that, a lot of these workers too, they'll set gravestones, and some of these guys have been out there, 5 to 7 years, where they can work independently. They can make repairs to equipment. I mean, they can do quite a bit than just your average seasonal. So that's why we're creating it. And then, like the mayor said, it's to retain these same individuals. So that's it.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 48? Here are no questions. I'll sign item number 48 with ordinance number 48 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans?
amending the classification plan as approved by ordinance 69 of 2019 and amending exhibit A of ordinance 4 of 2021 to establish a seasonal utility worker 3 classification and pay scale and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council?
President,
Mr. Davish?
I move for passage of ordinance number 48 of 2021 as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
second,
Second by Ms. Pollock. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 48 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Davish,
Yes,
Mrs. Pollock,
yes,
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
yes,
Mr. Seaman,
yes,
Mr. Wallenzeck,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 48 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. That ends the items for consideration and passage this evening, and we will move to the mayor's report. Mayor?
Don't have much, but as Mike Beasley noted early on, that we had some questioning about the fire station on Wynn Road, and he made a contact with that individual and believe we'll work out the details. We find that a lot of times things get kind of hashed out on Facebook pages, and we take note of it. We don't find that to be the proper forum to address those concerns, but we do make contact with those people, with the people that we see if we see concerns out there. And like I said, we don't find that to be the proper forum to handle it, but we get a hold of people and we try to resolve the problems instead of creating problems. So we'll continue to do that like we always have, and work the details out.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, is there any
Appointments?
no hires or anything?
Oh, yeah. I forgot. Sorry. Good. They're only right here next to me. Okay, I've got some seasonal appointments. I'll start with the seasonal part in water distribution. Ask council's concurrence of the appointment of Mr. Garrett Anderson of 437 Bridgewater Drive, Oregon, Ohio, as utility worker 2 in the water distribution, classification 6, step 1, hourly rate $12.15 an hour, and the effective date would be tomorrow, March 23rd, 2021. And I'd ask council's concurrence in that appointment, once again, of Mr. Garrett Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Pollock.
I move to concur with the mayor's appointment of Mr. Garrett Anderson to water distribution.
Thank you, Ms. Pollock.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, council concurs with the appointment of Garrett, or the hiring of Garrett Anderson as a seasonal employee.
And next I got a list of 5 people. The effective date will also be March 23rd, 2021 to the Cemeteries and Streets Division. And the first is Grace Claus, step 5, 1275, utility worker 3, classification 7, David Wiegand, step 1, $14 an hour, David Schultz, step 1, $14, Michael Gaddis, step 1, $14, and James Gorey, or somebody.
Yes, James Gorey. Yes, James Gorey.
Gorey, step 1, $14 an hour. Once again, the effective date is tomorrow, March 23rd, and I'd ask council's concurrence in the appointment of those 5 individuals that I just stated their names.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I concur with the mayor's 5 appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second,
Second by Ms. Pollock. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, council concurs with the appointments of seasonal help in the Cemeteries and Street Division that's listed on the memo that was presented.
And the next one, I would like to announce the retirement resignation of Paul Rumstadt, which will be effective after May 31st. The official date, last day, will be the end of May 31st. And I would ask council's concurrence in accepting the retirement resignation of Paul Rumstadt, effective, like I said, after May 31st, 2021.
Mr.
Thank you.
President,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Seaman. Yes, Mr. Seaman.
I move to concur with the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Second,
Second by Mr. Davish. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, council concurs with the acceptance of the retirement of Mr. Paul Rumstadt, effective May 31st.
And then from the police division, I would like to, once again, these next 2 are retirement resignations also. And the first one would be Antonio Castillo, Sergeant Antonio Castillo, and he will be retiring effective June 18th, 2021. With his official last work date really is April 15th, but the retirement date of June 18th, 2021. And I would ask council's concurrence in accepting the wishes of Antonio Castillo's retirement wishes.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I would concur with the mayor on accepting the retirement of Tony Castillo. We are going to lose a lot.
Yeah.
We
Thank
really
you,
are.
Mr. Zale.
second,
Second by Mrs. Pollock. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, council concurs with the acceptance of the retirement resignation from Sergeant Tony Castillo.
And next, once again, is a retirement resignation of Officer Joe Daniels. Last work date is March 19th, and using time to get to the last official day will actually be May 3rd, 2021. And once again, ask council's concurrence in granting Officer Joe Daniels his retirement wishes.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I wish to concur with the mayor in accepting the retirement of Joe Daniels. And together with he and Tony, we are losing a lot of experience here. Great individuals. I am proud to say that I trained both.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Powell. Any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor Council concurs with the acceptance of the retirement resignation of Officer Joe Daniels.
You know, I'd just like to just say one thing about those two individuals. It makes me feel old when I was here for the hiring of both of those and the retiring of both of those. It seemed like I remember appointing Joe Daniels years ago. Seems like it wasn't that long ago, but quite a few years went by. With that, I conclude my report. And once again, Mr. President, thank you for reminding me of these. They were only sitting about 2 inches away from me.
Thank you, Mayor.
That might have to do with some of those years I was here.
Mr. Beasley.
Just a quick note to say congrats to our retirees, and yes, they will indeed be missed. It's hard to believe how long that the time goes that quickly. So it is a reminder of that. Also, just thank you to the council and to Fire Command and Fire Union leadership to help working us through this transition. We've all worked together on this, and it's kind of exciting. Let's see where it leads us in the coming months as we move forward on fire station details, and I think into a way that I think we make we'll end up with a community that is safer. We have outstanding firefighters. We just needed a better shape, and this is a way to get us into a better shape. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Ms. Purpura.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Purpura. Mr. Roman.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Reeves.
No report, Mr. President.
Mr. Zale.
No report, Mr. President, but a comment here. I'm concerned when we've done some of these meetings here recently. I'm wondering why certain council people aren't on video. I find that troublesome.
Well, I will tell you that we're planning on this being our last Zoom meeting, and our next regular council meeting, we will be in council chambers.
Well, I get that, but we may revisit this, but I'm just concerned why that is. Is there something?
You have to ask those individuals.
Just as a note, there are some folks that have some bandwidth issues, and they find they have challenges when their video's off, for what it's worth. I don't know what's going on in any individual's houses. I'm just aware of that. It's not a problem I have in my box, but I know I've been in some meetings lately where people have had to turn their camera off just so they could hear the rest of the meeting. But I don't know the case here.
Mr. President?
Yes, Ms. Paula.
I do know that when you go back to watch the video, if you go back on YouTube and watch the video, it doesn't show the names of who's at the meeting. The ones that aren't on per video, they're not a part of they don't show as a part of the meeting. So if you want to, be shown that you're in the meeting, you have to have that video on. Otherwise, you don't come up as being present. So just as a note for that.
Thank you, Ms. Paula.
Mr. President.
Mr. Reeves.
I turned mine off for no specific reason, just like I said, there's no reason to turn it off, but at any rate.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Thank you, Mr. Zale. Mr. Seaman.
No report at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Mr. Davish.
I got no report, but happy Easter to everybody.
Thank you, Mr.
Easter, Marvin.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Ms. Pauloff.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. And then Mr. Horniak.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. And I have no report from my standing committee. other than we will plan on being back in council chambers at our next regular council meeting. Next week is the 5th Monday, therefore we'll not have a meeting. The following Monday after that is the Easter Monday. Typically, we don't have a lot of legislation that comes forward for that Monday's committee of the whole meeting. If we do need to have one, we will have one on the 5th. But more than likely, we will be back together on the 12th of April. And we wish all of you a happy Easter, be safe. And I'll take a motion to end the meeting.
Mr. President,
Mr. Seaman.
I move for adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Second by Mr. Zale. Council, any objections? Hearing no objection.